Talk about health and mental health and all of these things, man. To see what you're doing, this is really dope. It's a long time coming.
Hmm.
If y'all hear the intro, that's me. That's me rapping on the intro. I got to shout myself out.
Yep.
But
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Initially Awkward. It's your boy, Derek Devine, and we have, can I say special guest? I don't even know if I can say that.
you can say it if you want to.
I can say it.
Don't be
Okay.
scared.
Okay, so we got a special guest, and I know I say that all the time, and we actually have had some special guests on the pod, but today we have my older brother, Dwaine Radden Jr. There's a couple of different names he can go by. Edward the Middle, um, I guess simply Dwaine. What other names do you go by? What do people know you as?
Peanut, DJ, everybody that know me that played football with me or went to school with me, know Peanut is the nickname. But if y'all know me, whatever you feel comfortable with. But for this case, his brother, like you know how we do, so it ain't nothing. No restrictions on that.
All right, you know what? I love that we're going no restrictions. For anybody tuning in, me and I call him Peanut. So me and Peanut, we talk often, offline about several different things. So when he was gracious enough to say he was going to be on the podcast, I was like, okay, what can we talk about? It was like a long list of things, but he'll talk a little bit about this in just a few moments. But he is in the mental health space, social worker, clinician. So he deals with a lot of individuals when we're talking about mental health. So I was like, this is a perfect topic. It comes up a lot when we're talking. So I thought it would be perfect to bring his knowledge and skill set to the pod and answer some of the questions that I personally have. I know questions that people might have about mental health, and exclusively because I am a black man, why is mental health such a taboo thing when it comes to the black community? So I want to talk a little bit about that. Before getting into my initially awkward question that we usually start off with, I got to ask, how are you doing, man? How's everything been?
Man, it's been good. Definitely had some challenges over the past few weeks. Lost a friend. Studying for my LCSW exam, which has been pretty hectic, and just a few things like the normal challenges that we go through in life. Like you see what's going on in the world, you get saddened by that, by the wars, by poverty, by um, all the things, man. So it's been a little bit of everything, but I'm thankful to be here. Thankful for you having me on the pod, man. This is a cool moment for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You are a big advocate for me doing a pod, and again, I always tell people when I do this pod, when I do an episode, I was supposed to launch this thing about 6 years ago during COVID. So he was one of the people that was like, "Hey, launch it, launch the pod." So we here. It's like a full circle moment. Okay, Let's jump right into it, man, because I know it's a lot of things we want to talk about today. But I want to ask my initially awkward question, and that is, why is it initially awkward for men of color to admit that we're not okay?
Man, I honestly think it's because we come from a place of like needing to exude toughness and having to be strong, not just physically strong, but mentally strong. And I think that's just been historically something that we've gone through. And I think having to talk about your mental health is almost like a sign of weakness, it feels like. It's almost I have to be vulnerable to talk about this thing that I'm hiding, that I'm dealing with. And I think it's frowned upon in our own minds. And I think even in our own experiences, you'll see people that I've been around, yeah, just using myself for example, like playing football your whole life. Football is toughness, like it's mental toughness, it's physical toughness. I mean, I was in high school, try going to the sideline saying, "Oh, my shoulder hurts" or
Not
"My
a
knee
thing.
hurts."
It's not.
Yeah, that's hard, and that's like to me, it's equivalent when talking about your mental health. Try going to somebody that you feel safe with and saying, "My heart hurts,
Mm.
my soul hurts, my mind is hurting today." I think we're so used to being told to suck it up and push through it that um, imagine us having to go to somebody and just tell them like I'm not feeling well today. I don't feel good. We kind of already have the answer and their response in our head, so we don't pursue our own care. We know how to have enough discipline to take care of someone else, but not enough discipline to take care of ourselves sometimes. So I feel like black man is hard, man. We got a lot of challenges, a lot of layers, and a lot of insecurities when it comes to vulnerability. It's just tough. It's a low. That's a heavy question, but just to kind of sum it up, I think that's from my experience. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, man. So much to take from there. I do want to go back a little bit because I don't know, and you would know better than me, how many black men are, and I'm gonna say black men exclusively. How many black men are in the health care field, or I guess the mental health field for that matter? You're a therapist, clinician. Is it a field that you see many individuals that look like yourself? And then talk to me a little bit about your journey. How did you end up here? Especially once you look around and you don't see people that look like you, how do you find yourself in these spaces?
Yeah, I think in my experience, it's not a lot. I mean, I just not putting, places I worked at before, but I think a lot of times in places they're always excited when they see someone that looks like me or a person of color come in, especially a male, to do mental health. And in my experience, it's not a lot. I know that it's starting to grow a little bit, but it's still very few. Kind of like in the medical field, like with doctors, you don't see a lot of black male doctors, or even black male pilots and stuff like that. Like I'm sure it's growing a little bit, but not too many that I see. I know out here in the Bay Area, it's very small. And if there is some, they're usually kind of doing like private practice, or they're kind of spread out. It's not like you would see with our counterparts, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, but I think for my journey, I was when well, we were both at, UNM at University of New Mexico. And I think that at that time I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I noticed that when we was there, um, actually I'm gonna go further back than that. Let's keep it 100.
Keep it 100.
Um,
Don't lie to the
I
people.
I can't lie to the people. It's crazy. But but no, I think when I was a kid, starting when we were younger, and you can attest to this. We lived in a household where we had both parents. Fortunately, we did. For a lot of black families, that's not always the case. But having a mom and a dad that both had their dominant personalities, and like my our dad has always been like discipline, determination, dedication. He was always prepping us for the real world, like things that were going to happen in life. So naturally, as a kid, you tend to listen more than you speak. You try to absorb all the information. So the listening ability started there. And then our mom, who was passed on, but she was always very instrumental with asking us every day we came home from school, who got on your nerve today? Like she'll always be like, did anybody get on your nerves?
Yeah.
Every time. And
Yeah.
that was her check-in question. It never shifted. No matter how old we got, it was always the same question. And that to me kind of had my wheels turning as a kid of like, all right, there's two things. You have to know how to listen and absorb information, but then also be prepared to explain what you're feeling or what your day felt like. And they don't know how instrumental that was for us as kids, like to have both parents kind of teach you and not even realize they're teaching you these like skills low key that you'll end up going into this field. So as I got older, I started noticing even at school or like just around things at home that you and I shared a room. So we often talked about stuff, whether we was about to get a whooping or we was about to
Hmm.
go out or do something. Like we always kind of bounce ideas off of each other. Same thing with our other siblings in the household. It was always like we could just go to each other's rooms and talk. And I think that we had a enough level of privacy amongst each other that you create a safe space without even realizing that's what you're doing. So it's something about sitting in a space with somebody quietly and knowing that you might have fear, you might have anxiety about that whooping that's coming up. But
Mhm.
I'm talking to my bro about like what I did, what happened, how you think it's gonna be bad as it is. So I didn't even realize at the time, like I'm learning like therapy skills even through childhood. So when we got to UNM, um, I mean, so many people would come and we would connect with people, or they would come up and they'll ask me questions like in our dorm. I think because I was a little older by the time I got to UNM,
Yeah.
so I felt like people just naturally was like, oh yeah, this dude knows some stuff or whatever. So I just always felt comfortable giving people a safe space, and I think that's where it really started for me. And once I got into finish with undergrad, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do social work specifically, and I had took a job with Boys and Girls Club in Redlands. I wasn't there very long, so sorry I left y'all. Shout out to everybody at Boys and Girls Club
Hey, shout out
Redlands.
to the Boys and Girls Club, man. They doing
For
some good
sure,
work.
man. They doing what they need to do. But yeah, I was there and I noticed that, talking to the staff, talking to the kids, I was like, man, I couldn't see myself being a teacher, but I noticed that when the kids are coming to me or whoever it was, any problems I was having, I was helping them process something that wasn't even classroom related. It was like an emotion, they crying, they upset, or whatever. So when I applied to USC, I started in a Rossier program. I think I'm saying that right. It's the education program, and I failed, like completely failed that program, like the
Now,
first school year.
when you say failed, like, are you saying like you failed a few classes, or did you like completely like flunk out of USC?
I failed a class, which was like the first, like it was like the introductory class of the program. And I was sitting in there, I was like, man, I'm not trying to learn none of this stuff, man. I'm not trying to be no teacher. I'm not trying to. And shout out to all the teachers. I love what y'all doing. Y'all have probably one of the toughest jobs right now. But I couldn't do it, man. It was just not good timing at all. So then I went to work at Boys and Girls Club, and this guy came in that was he was a male social worker, and I was like, I didn't even know. I mean, this might sound ignorant, but I was like, I didn't even know Drew was working social work, to be honest. So he came in there, he was talking to us about mandated reporting,
Yeah,
being safe, and all these things. And I was like, man, that sounds really interesting. Because I had already had curiosity about it in undergrad. So then after the training, I walked up to him, I was like, hey, how do I get into doing this? How do I get into the social work field? And he was like, well, you know, you can get an MSW, you can do the MFT route, whatever you want to do, like as far as like doing his position specifically, not just social work, but like what he was specifically doing.
yeah,
So then I went home, did research at USC. I was like, oh, they have a program at USC for social work. So I applied, I prayed. I think at that time I had left Boys and Girls Club like not too long after that, maybe a few months after that, and I was working for a warehouse, and I was working for a warehouse in San Bernardino, and it was around the same time that J. Cole dropped that KOD album, so I was in the warehouse stacking the things, waiting, just praying that I would get into the program because I had failed that class, and USC, you know, it's hard. That's a hard school to get into.
hmm,
And I got a phone call from the admissions person and it was like, yeah, we wanted to let you know you've been accepted to the program. So
wow,
I got into it, and even my whole time at USC, I felt like I needed to do whatever I could to heal because that program was so big on like talking about, you know, your experience, but also like what your clients are going to go through. So if you can't process your healing, how you gonna help somebody else do that, but also doing other parts of social work. So it was really dope. And then when I was done, I honestly didn't even want to be like get my LCSW or my license. I didn't even want to go that route. I just wanted to do like macro social work, which is like doing like running like a nonprofit organization or doing policy change and stuff like that. So when I got done, man, all the jobs I had ended up doing was all felt like I was doing therapy. So
yeah,
that's how I got into it, man. It's been a blessing getting into it so far. I'm still young, like I said, into it. I'm going to be doing my license exam in June, and I'm looking forward to it. But I love it. I've been practicing therapy now for 2 years as an associate, and then in my other roles, I've done therapy as well. So almost like 4 years um, having some form of therapy practice under my belt.
yeah. You know what? I think we have to tell the people a little bit about when you got into the program, and I believe it was maybe a counselor or maybe a teacher who pretty much said in order to stay in the program, you had to meet certain
Mm,
thresholds. So I think that part is important because being transparent, if I, you'll reveal what that person told you, but I think if somebody told me that, I don't know if I'm going forward with it. Just being transparent. If somebody's telling me, you know, and I'll let you speak to it, but that's just me. I would be like, nah, I'm good. It's too much pressure. But what did that counselor or teacher tell you when you got into the program?
Yeah, shout out to them too, man. Shout out to the person that told me that. Yeah, when I got into the social work program at USC, um, this person was very clear. They were like, "Look, you failed a class already in another program, and in order to graduate from our program, you have to have at least a 3.0 to finish." And they were essentially like, you need to get literally straight A's. Like you can't fail not one class. And I remember I was sitting there thinking like, yeah, ain't no way that's gonna happen. Because I know what my grades was in high school and I know what they was in undergrad. Undergrad, my grades are good. But at USC, it's a different pressure because you're going to a school that's a private university. It is nationally known. It's a lot of different levels of educational experience that's going to USC. So you're already in your head like, man, I already failed one class in another program. Like, what is this going to look like to do this in this program? If I fail one class, or if I get a D, or even a C,
Yeah.
even a B minus, like you're done. So yeah, it was a lot of pressure, man. A lot of, but shout out to them because I think that they were being realistic. At the time, I didn't like it. At the time, I felt like they were kind of betting against me. But in hindsight, it was probably one of the best things that could happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Again, if somebody put that type of pressure on me, I don't know. I'll probably find an alternative
I'm
route.
out of there, man. I'm out of there.
I'm out. You have to get a 3.0, especially knowing you was in the school a semester or two before and you completely failed out. That's a lot of pressure. But
Hmm.
honestly, I think the space that you're working in, the mental health space, is pressure in general. And I do want to pivot to that and talk a little bit about it. When you are working with going into these individual homes or these houses and meeting with these people and doing therapy, I would imagine it's a lot of pressure there. How do you navigate through those spaces, man? Your day, they're not really calling you for anything like fluffy and nice and happiness for the most part. And correct me if I'm wrong. So you're dealing with a lot of heavy stuff and heavy conversations. How do you have those heavy conversations with these individuals or families without it letting impact you? Like that's a I would imagine for those in that space or thinking about getting into this space, that's a real question. Like I don't think I could be a social worker or a therapist or whatever because I'm gonna take the work home. So essentially, how do you keep yourself from taking the work home?
I think when going into these spaces, I'm always mindful that we all struggle. Like, I think realizing that we all have a struggle we're dealing with. We are not going into this world without either having an internal struggle or watching somebody else struggle. And I think if you can put that into perspective, that could easily be you on that couch that you're talking to. That could be easily you in that moment in the hospital where you received the bad news of grief. That could easily be you in a situation where you've flunked out of the program and you didn't pass the program and you're done. So it's always that level of humility, being empathetic. I think because a lot of people in our field, it feels like they have some level of trauma. So I kind of look at it as like a blessing, it's like a gift and a curse because your own trauma helps you to be mindful of others. And you kind of like make sure you don't step on their emotional landmines. You're like, I don't want anything to explode in this space. So I have to be cognizant. I have to be mindful of what they're feeling. So for me, it's always practicing that. I'm always like self-reflecting a lot. And that's not stuff that I say is easy. It takes a long time to learn and build up those skills, especially as Black men. We're not always taking care of ourselves. So when we go into spaces, we have to put a mask on sometimes, or we have to put on a presentable form of ourselves that is prepared for anything, whether that's prepared to fight, whether that's prepared to have to advocate, whether that's prepared to have to yell or have to be calm. Like we as Black men have um a tough challenge doing that. I know sometimes when I first got started, I always had this first imposter syndrome, but then it's also this mental battle of like, oh, they're gonna look at me and then like this dude, like he's Black, like he don't. I'm Latino or I'm white or I'm Asian. Like, what is he going to be able to relate to? Or um, that kind of back of your mind thought of like, I don't want them trying to like. I remember I used to be in class at USC where it kind of felt like you had to navigate the Black space for them. Because in my program, I
What do
was
you
the
mean?
only
What do you mean by that? Navigate the black space.
like I don't know if you ever been in their positions. I know the school where we went to a high school, it was like maybe no lie. Correct me if I'm wrong. If y'all know us, it maybe it was like six Black people at the entire school. So
About
I
six.
think I think that you're in these classrooms and you quickly recognize people don't look like you, but there's always this random conversation that'll come up. Maybe it's the slavery topic in history. Then all of a sudden they looking around like dang, like I hope so and so's all right. There's like, nah, like I feel like when you're in a professional space, it's very similar. You got to code switch, or you got to not code switch, or you got to like if something comes up, they're looking at not necessarily looking at you, but you internally feel like they're looking at you. You're like, oh man, like I hope that they don't think that um I'm too ghetto or I'm not ghetto, I'm not Black enough. Even that I'm not am I Black enough sometimes. Like those are things that you battle as black people, but I feel like as a black man, there's so many layers to it when you go into this field because it is not a field that you see a lot of men in, but especially black men. So you're holding two worlds. I kind of think of like W.E. Du Bois' double consciousness, how he talks about you're warring with this version of yourself of like how you appear um, to the world, and then also for yourself, and you're battling and you're warring with these two ideals, and that's how it is for me sometimes. Like I'm in a space where I know where I'm from, I know who I am, and that's authentic to me. And
Hmm.
then merging that with the fact that you're dealing with somebody that are they going to be able to accept your authenticity while also like not trying to look at that as like a barrier? Like I don't want it to be a barrier
I got you.
for people. So yeah.
Man, going back, let me say this: I love Black History Month as a kid, but I also hated it.
Mm,
And I know that's probably going to
yeah.
sound crazy to people, but I don't know what your experience was. But we going back a little bit further to elementary, I was probably the only black kid in my class. And when they start talking about slavery and Black History Month, everybody's eyes was looking at me, and it felt so uncomfortable. And
Every time.
I'm a little bit younger, so it's kind of weird in a sense because I actually felt a little bit like ashamed, and
Mm,
I didn't fully comprehend what slavery meant. Um, just everything that we went through as a black people, I really didn't. You talking about elementary, you're talking about second, third grade, so you don't really understand. So I don't feel bad for saying that I was ashamed of it, but when when you are navigating these spaces, is there any level of shame that comes over you, or how do you deal with that if that is something that you struggle with?
um, I would say shame. Well, to what you were saying with the Black History Month, no, I didn't experience that necessarily like that love hate thing. It was more like I want more understanding of what that looks like because I think 1 month is really nasty work. Like just to give us 1 month is crazy work, but because we've been so influential in so many different spaces, not just like um injustice, like fighting for different injustices and fighting for equality, but also inventions. Like we invented so many different things. Are you look at it right now, like how we are just as in general as entertainers, like
Hmm.
whether it's athletes or scientists or doctors, like we've done all, a little bit of everything. But I think the shame part, for me, the shame that I struggle with is like past mistakes, of course, like things that you just can't seem to get over. And I feel like for us as men, we do make a lot of mistakes, especially black men. Like we make a lot of good progress, a lot of good things, but then in our relationships, whether it's with our kids, our spouses, our friends, we do have hiccups because for a lot of us, we only know like one or two ways of doing what we do. Like we know, like we got to protect, provide. We got to be able to throw them hands and throw that bag when we need to. Like it ain't one or the other. Not that I'm saying we just limited to that, but that in our generation, our upbringing was like if you didn't do those two, then you weren't considered a man or you weren't strong or however you want to look at it. And I feel like I carry a lot of shame for how utilize that so much as like how I navigated relationships,
Hmm.
especially like when I was dating when I was younger. Like I wasn't looking at the person I was looking at that I was dating as like this whole body of a person, mind, body, and soul.
Hmm.
You're looking at like, oh, I got the baddest chick in the Dino, or I got the baddest one, and like you kind of my shame all just stems from like my own personal choices, whether it was relationship stuff or family stuff, making mistakes, and
Yeah.
you do carry that, like you carry that for a long time, and it's hard to like navigate out of that. But I think that's where mine comes up more so than anything.
Yeah, I want to go back to our time at UNM, and with this transitioning into therapy and exclusively therapy for Black men. So I remember when we were at UNM, I had a lot of friends, and being candid, a lot of the friends that I had were like white friends that talked openly about going to therapy and all that good stuff. And I don't know why, but immediately I was like, why are y'all going to therapy? I didn't say this, but I'm thinking in my mind. Like that was
Mm.
my initial reaction. Like, yo, what they struggling with? They got to be like, what are they thinking about? Stuff like that. why is it? Why do people like me, or why myself? Why is the first initial reaction when you think of therapy is like, oh, they must be crazy, oh, they must be depressed, oh, they must be. I know that can't be the case, and I've actually never been to therapy myself, so this is a answer question I'm asking for myself. But why is that the first knee jerk reaction? Where it's like a taboo thing. Like if you go on to therapy, if you see a therapist, there's got to be something wrong with you. And I would say that's more prevalent in the black community, not
Hmm.
universal, because I know, especially now, we got a lot of people advocating for it. But there's still a group of us that kind of put a little, a little asterisk or something. They kind of see it as taboo when it comes to therapy and your mental health. Why is it? Do you think we even can think of it like that, while our counterparts use it as a resource to make themselves better and heal?
I think because it looks like weakness. It looks like you're talking to somebody about your problems. Like that's wild. And when you think about it, like how we were raised, right? We was raised always to like keep keep everything in house.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I remember our mom would tell us like, never talk to law enforcement without ask for a lawyer. Don't just talk to anybody. So naturally, like being able to talk to people about your problems seemed almost like it seemed like a deviant thing. It's like you don't talk to other strangers about your problems. You just talk about it amongst your family,
Mm-hmm.
which in hindsight, yeah, that's probably not the healthiest thing to do because I think our parents are teaching us that because they're like, you can't trust everybody. So you naturally learn that as the kid growing up, like trust who you know around you. When you get to school or stuff happens, like you don't go and you don't naturally go tell the teacher, especially where we from. Like you're not gonna go in there and be like, "Oh, so and so just messed with me." Like I remember my third grade teacher. She was like, "I don't want to hear no whining and no snitching. Like y'all got problems. Like we gon' And she would, and I think her perspective was like, she didn't say snitching, but tattletelling. Like she was like, I don't like a tattletale. So as a kid, you already start to work this muscle memory of like, yeah, something big happened. You might want to keep that to yourself till you get home
Yeah.
and you kind of just build that mindset. So I think when people talk about going to therapy, it is odd to some people that have not experienced an openness with communication with a random person because you're sitting across from somebody, whether it's in group, and you're amongst a group of people or individual and it's one-on-one or family therapy. Now you're sitting with your whole family unit. It's awkward because you're literally telling somebody else that you don't know about things that happen to you. And when other people hear that, they're like, it almost sounds crazy. Like, why would you do that? You could just talk to your mom about it. You can talk to your dad about it. But
Mm-hmm.
not everybody has a family that is trauma informed. So they're not going to always respond to you in a way that you maybe need or even have the tools to help you navigate what you're thinking. So I know when we were in school, this sounds crazy to say, but like even when we was in high school, I never even thought of therapy. Like I only thought of physical therapy. I
Yeah.
didn't think of like or speech therapy. I didn't think that there was like I thought like you just go to a school counselor and you got in trouble or something or your
Right.
grades is bad. Like I didn't think like you're gonna talk about emotional stuff. So I too was a part of that crowd that when I got to college and I heard people was going to therapy, the first thing you think like, oh, they must be crazy. Like something's happening with their mental. Like are they gonna hurt themselves or whatever? You don't think of it as like I guess like if you were to go to the hospital and you went and you told somebody, "Oh, I went because my stomach was hurting." I guess depending on the severity of what you're going to the hospital for, you might look at them like a stomach ache, man. Like take some Pepto-Bismol and go to sleep. Like, or you might if they went in there for heart surgery, you wouldn't say anything. And sometimes our emotions need that surgery. It needs fixing that therapy does, and it does help. So I think we got to get away from that stigma, especially as men, black men specifically. We don't like going to therapy. Therapy is not something we want to sit there and do because it's not something we were trained and
Yeah.
wired to do even as kids.
Man, I tell you, old habits is hard to break because I've talked to you countless amount of times about therapy. I'm talking to you now and I'm learning more stuff, but old habits are hard to break because as you're talking about it, I can't help but think, yeah, there's benefits to therapy. Yeah, of course, of course. But then on the flip side, I'm thinking, man, just handle it. Like,
Mm,
what you need therapy for? Like do I need to go see a therapist every single time my boss yells at me, or every time my wife is mad, or every time the kids do something like. half of me is saying, nah, like what are you talking about? What are you gonna go to therapy for that? So how can we use or utilize therapy for those again that's thinking like myself, where it's like, would you want me to just run to my therapist every time I'm having a bad day? Is that the answer, or is it should it be used as a in a different way?
I think you should use therapy because there's no one size fits all. And I will say this, and I always tell my clients, like, this ain't about the change your entire life by being in therapy. It's not going to fix you, so to speak. Therapy to me is a place where you give tools, you learn tools, and you learn coping skills, or you learn to process your thoughts in a healthier way. Whereas in a real world, like you just constantly going and going and going, and if that problem does happen, that person cuts you off in traffic, and the next thing you know, you're mad at work, and now you're taking out everybody at work, and then you go home and you're taking out on your wife and your kids. Therapy does help with like processing each of those situations and seeing how they're connected. I'm just using that as an example where if you have a good therapist, like they should be able to help you have some skills, but you shouldn't be going to therapy expecting the therapist to tell you what to do. Like a
Mm,
lot of this stuff is like you got to take what you're learning and what you're processing and the coping skills you get and apply them and use them. And I kind of look at it like with football, like football, you only got better the more you showed up to practice because you can't just go from um, signing up for football, training in the summer, and then we gonna jump right into the season.
yeah,
Like you don't do none of the off-season prep, no weightlifting, no off-season workouts, no reading the playbook. Like you're only as good as the practice you put in. So I feel the same way with therapy. Like utilize it in a way where these are tools. I kind of look at it like dad, I used to go to work with this tool bag, and he can kind of fix any situation depending on what it was. If it was a refrigerator, he had tools set for this. If it was a washer, yeah, tool set for this or a dishwasher, whatever it was. So it's like you should be able to have a tool bag of things that you can take, whether it's going through grief.
yeah.
What tools did you learn from therapy? Because I think a lot of times, man, we're taking some of these tools and we're not actually utilizing them. And then sometimes people you have them in you, they just need to be trained more. Like you have the muscle to do this stuff. You just haven't been trained to do it and you haven't been in environments that nurture that. So that's how I would use therapy, but I would be remiss if I didn't say like it's not gonna just fix all your problems and change all your problems. Like that's not how therapy works. Like you're gonna still have issues like anything else in life, but you do have the tools now to utilize that if you have a therapist that's giving you that. And that's how I would use it. That would be my best advice on that.
So essentially, when we're talking about therapy and how I should view therapy, it doesn't make you weak to go to therapy, but it can potentially
Mm,
get you prepared for the boss or for somebody cutting you off in traffic or for the kids, you know, doing whatever they do. But essentially, the
mm,
getting away from this mindset that first sitting down with somebody that I don't know who's a stranger, that getting rid of from this idea that it's awkward, like, oh, I ain't gonna tell you nothing. But if you can conquer that step, the next piece of it is I'm giving you tools in your bag. It's not a weakness; it's actually a strength. You're gonna have tools to not spaz out, and I honestly feel that's what we want, right? If I'm looking at
mm,
myself, the reason why therapy has become so appealing for me, especially in the last 2 to 5 years, I'll say, and I still haven't made it, which is crazy. But the reason why it's become pretty intriguing to me is because I don't want to react the same way that I did back in the past. I don't want to black out or spaz out because somebody cut me off in traffic. I don't want to jump on Indeed every time my boss asks me for something. I don't want to. I feel like for me, that's why I'm really leaning into. Okay, maybe this might be the year because I'm tired of using. I don't even know if they're tools. Would you call them tools or just old habits that you learned? And I feel like it was things we kind of was put in our bag as kids. And I use this. I'm comfortable with using it. But you get to a point where it's like, man, this does not work. It's not working for me. I get the same result. I'm aware enough to know that I'm going to come back on Monday after the weekend. After I reflect about it, now I got to apologize. And now
yeah.
everybody weird. So, um, any thoughts on that about just dealing with why do we use these old habits and these old tricks, and they're hard to break though at the same time. So as a
Yeah.
therapist, how do you help people navigate through really themselves? How do you help people from themselves?
Yeah, the old habits, they feel safe. Like they feel I think when we're familiar with something, we go with that. It's almost like if you and I, if someone asks us like, how do you get to your childhood house? We know exactly how to get there, and it just feels familiar. Like it feels safe. I know which place to turn. I know where to park. Um, but I think a lot of times what's safe is also keeping us from healing. What's normalized in our mind is keeping us from breaking chains and breaking free. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients that have like old habits or um, things that they just can't get rid of, I'm always trying to explore the meaning behind that. Like why keep that thing for so long? I have like several things in here that I look at that I can look around, I can grab that I'm like, oh, I keep a hold of this stuff for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't serve any like current meaning anymore. I have to start questioning the value of why do I keep doing that same thing. And I think like the old saying goes, old habits die hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to look at where did the root of it start from? Like where do we start doing this thing? Where did it come from? Um, and I think that's really hard to do. Like it's so hard to get rid of like old stuff. It's really hard to like not continue to use what we knew worked for us because we still find attachment to it. We still find purpose to it. We like, man, I got to keep that old hat that I got when I was in third grade because my grandpa gave it to me and it means something to me. And I'm just using that like an article or something, but even like our thought pattern, like um, for the longest time, I would always when I would go in stores, I'd be like, man, I feel like they looking at me. Like I feel like they
Mm.
watching what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got into therapy myself and like broke stuff down that I'm I'm not only looking at an experience that happened when I was like 6 and 7. I remember I won't say the people, of course, but like there was a point, there was a time where two people that I care about was accused of stealing something. And they didn't actually steal the thing that it was. It was this person had a perception that they stole the thing. And they look just like me. They're black. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, dang, that's crazy because now it's this perception that when I go in the stores, I gotta move a certain type of way.
Yeah.
And coming from where we're from, and even how mom was when we would go in the stores, she would almost feel like sometimes people watching, and we not stealing nothing. Like we got the at all, like not even a little bit. But I think when you watch these experiences happen to you, you start to develop your own, I guess, toolkit that may be toxic or negative or defensive, however you want to call it, or protective toolkit that you start to build where you're like, well, this is what I know works. If I walk around a store and I'm visible, or if I grab the item and I just take it to the front and say, I'm still looking around, I'm not done yet. And you put on this guard and you like, this helps me feel safe that they're not gonna judge me, or they're still gonna judge me, but I got my ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So, and that's just an example of like, for me, my own experience, like when you're going and when I'm going to stores, how I feel. But I kept that for so long when I was growing up in San Bernardino that I moved to the Bay. And yeah, people still have these experiences, but where I live specifically, I don't have that happen as much.
Yeah.
So the problem with that is that the old habit didn't die though. Now I'm in the stores, I'm on 10, I'm still walking around. I remember I was in one store and I had picked out a jacket I wanted and I walked up to the front and the lady was like, oh, are you ready to check out? I was like, no, no, I'm still looking around. I just want to leave this up here. So, and then she kind of looked at me like, that's like you
Yeah.
don't need to you don't need to do you everybody else is still walking around with their stuff. But because of that experience I saw when I was 6 or 7 and watching my our mom go through that, um, you don't you use these habits. You don't get rid of them. Even now that I'm in a different environment, a different space, they're not doing that. They're not looking at me saying like, oh, he can't afford it, he can't do it. Those are all things I'm saying to myself in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that those experiences are valid, they happen to people where people did get accused of stealing or they were looked at a certain way. So I'm saying that in the sense of like, if I'm doing that with this, imagine what I'm doing with my mental health stuff. Like, there's other things that I want to suppress. I hear people say all the time, like, "Oh, I'm good at compartmentalizing." That's great, but like, what stuff are you compartmentalizing? Like, the trauma that happened to you, the person that broke up with you 2 days ago, and now you on that website, now you on that app again, and you in your ex DMs again, knowing you ain't supposed to be in there, like, because you might compartmentalize a little too well. Like some of the stuff you need to process a little bit. So I think that
Wow.
we know how to use certain habits and skills that are comfortable for us. We go to the same place. that feels comfortable. And I feel like that's easier to navigate than having to learn new skills and new tools sometimes.
Man, you speaking. I want to go back to imposter syndrome, and I feel like this is a really good question because I see it a lot in my life, in my 9 to 5, and I work in HR. But I would be lying to say I don't even struggle with this sometimes, especially being new in a role. I think there's sometimes you can have imposter syndrome when it talks about the skill set. Man, I don't know if I'm good enough to even be here, if I'm smart enough to be here. That's one thing. I think as black men and black people in general, sometimes we find ourselves having imposter syndrome where we're the only black person in the room. Now that's a whole different level of. It's not anything to do with skill. It's I think I'm looking at my. Am I supposed to be here based on my color? And that's tough. When I actually think of it for myself, the few times that I've been in those situations where it's like I'm not really questioning my skill set. I'm just questioning if they think that I belong, or if they think that I'm too. I know you mentioned earlier too ghetto or too my dialect isn't right. I remember I had somebody tell me straight up. She said, "Man, you're really good at the work you do. You're really good. If you could just change the way you talk to
That's crazy.
sound like them."
That's
And
crazy.
she said them. She was referring to the people we were presenting to, which were older white males. But she was pretty much saying, if you're really good at your job, but if you change the way you talk, and I was like, I don't, and I was thinking in my mind, I didn't know how to respond, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know how to sound like a 60-year-old white man. I just don't like. I wouldn't even know where to start. Well, how do you speak to that? Because it's a one thing of imposter syndrome when it's a skill set thing, but what about when people are, I guess, it's microaggressions or whatever, when you're in
Hmm.
the workplace and you feel like, man, I don't think these people think I belong here, or I'm only hired because I was the hire, the diversity hire. I heard that a few times in my career too. Any thoughts to that piece of it?
Yeah, that is hard, man. What you just said is like mad tough because I know when I go into spaces, especially because I'm like one of the only black dudes that's in the space doing therapy or social work in that building specifically. I'm always dealing with the mental thought of like, man, I gotta outwork everybody. I gotta show up on time because I know they're gonna be watching what time I go to lunch, what time I come into work. And I feel like I gotta show up and just really like kind of like you see. I remember I was watching one of you just you being open and saying, and we've talked about this before about like feeling like you got to drop 30 on their head every time. Like you can't come in there and say like, man, 10 is enough. I'm gonna get 10 and 15 tonight. Like, no, I gotta drop 45 and 15, and you put that internal pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When realistically, to be honest, and this is not no slight to nobody, but like some of the people we working with ain't even dropping 6 and 5. Like they just kind of just showing up, kind of like milking the clock. But we as black people, especially black men, we coming in like with this internal pressure of like, I gotta drop 40 tonight. I gotta do my best because even my best ain't enough.
Mm.
But our counterparts are kind of like, not all of them, but some of them just kind of like, they just kind of occupying the space. They just here to get that check. So I think that's for me where the imposter syndrome starts to have the seed, where it starts to come in, because then you do feel like you're dropping 40. And I seen this recently. They're like, man, when you're really good at your job, you find out that they just give you more work. They give you new stuff to do. Like, they're like,
Right.
man, he's really good at this. Like, let's give him another thing. And
Really
I
fast.
think
Get
that's,
it done.
man, I remember my first job out of grad school, I was getting trained by this younger black woman, and she was telling me like, she said, yeah, I was super excited. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to hit the field and do this and blah blah blah. And she was like, yeah, man, don't do more than what they paying you to do. And I remember I was looking at her, I was like, what else we doing in here? Like, what else, what
Did
we
you?
got going? And
My first initial thought is, oh, you jaded. Oh, you jaded. Did you think it?
oh,
Did
you
you?
burnt out. Like, oh, you just in here, you burnt out. You ain't really trying to do the work no more. But nah, she was on pocket, on par with that. Cause I was like, I realized not only do I have imposter syndrome because I'm fresh out of grad school, I'm the only one that looked like me in the whole building. I'm dead serious. There was no black dudes doing my position in
Mm-hmm.
the whole building.
Yep.
And there was black women there, but it was maybe four of them. And I can't even imagine what they was feeling as black women because we already know the stereotypes that black women get. They don't get enough love and respect and advancement opportunities at all. At least as men, like as men, we get advancement opportunities, but as black men in these spaces, it's very rare. So I have that on that in my mind, and then on top of that, I'm like hearing what she said, and I'm like, dang, like I guess dropping 40 may not be a good thing because she gave context to what she said, and pretty much what she was saying is like when they see people that look like you work hard, uh, they reward that by giving you more work. They don't really value you in the space. So then you get to that place where you're like, all right, I got imposter syndrome and I got pressure in myself internally. And do they value me?
Mm,
Like, do they care about who I am in this space or what I'm doing? Do they care about more about what I do or who I am? So you got these three layers on top of the fact that you still got to do the job. Like you still got to do the work. So I feel like how I navigate that now is I realize that yeah, I can drop 40. Do I need to?
mm,
Is it necessary? The imposter syndrome, where is it coming from? Kind of like what we talked about before, like the old habits, like where is it coming from? Is it coming from the fact that I'm doubting myself, that I might have finessed the interview and they like, how did this dude get in here? What is the source of it? So
yeah.
for me, my imposter syndrome always lies with like something that's not even related to doing the work itself. It's like a outside pressure of like, man, can I perform and still be who I am and
Mm,
not lose myself in this work and not lose myself in the success and not lose myself in the accolades? Like that's where my and I always test that. And it always goes back to some root cause. Like always goes back to that Pop Warner game where we lost by a field goal or I scored 4 touchdowns in the next game. They're expecting me to score five
mm,
touchdowns.
yeah.
So it's all internal pressure. It's like how do you process that? So that's so normal that we go through that we don't even realize how much resiliency that we build up having to navigate those spaces all the time. But it's also not healthy for us to always keep this pressure on us without talking about it. We got to talk about where do we feel the pressure from, whether you cutting hair and you're a barber, whether you're a coach, whether you're a father, whether you are a maintenance man, no matter what role you in, you have a level of pressure and imposter syndrome you experience. It just looks different.
Yeah, man, that's so good. That's so good. Man, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm under the impression that as humans, we struggle with a set of, man, our core things that we struggle with. Like but the best way I could put it out, let me see if I can say it better. I feel like for me, if I'm looking at myself, I feel like my core thing that I struggle with is, do they see me? You know,
Mm,
am I good enough? And I feel like I can go back to when I was a kid and I'm still struggling with that. Am I being overlooked? I guess essentially the best way to put it, am I being overlooked? Don't overlook me, things like that. And then as you get older, you even when you're dating, when you're working a job, when you're building a community, my thing, I guess it's a lot of different things, a lot of different things I can struggle with. But I think the common thing that's followed me, that sticks out like a sore thumb is, are these people overlooking me? Do you have any,
mm.
in keeping in mind, we know we probably got a million of these things, but do you have anything for yourself that's like a core, I guess, a core trauma, I guess I'll say it that way, a core trauma that you see yourself, it recurs, you seen it when you was 5, you seen it again at 8, you seen it at 10,
Hmm.
now you seen it again at 21, and now you're in your 30s. Any core trauma that comes to you, and just looking at one and probably the biggest one that you struggle with.
Mm. Yeah, I would say it's like two or three that I struggle with. The first one is being hard on myself, like extremely, extremely hard on myself. The second one is people pleasing, like wanting to be available to support everybody. And I think the third one is like loyalty to a fault, like trying to be extremely loyal to the people that you're around, your upbringing. So I know as a kid, for me, I've always had to like perform. So whether that was football, whether that was like at school, even going to school, going on a getting on a bus in the morning felt like a performance. What am I wearing? How am I dressed? They gonna talk about my shoes, my sneakers, my haircut. Everything felt like you had to present, like an actor, like a performer. Like
Mm,
even if you didn't want to wear FUBU, you was like, I gotta wear FUBU because everybody wearing FUBU. So you kind of you gotta represent. So same thing in football. You have an audience and you're a little kid and you're running around on this field and you're having fun, but you do know it's a performance. Like if I don't perform, then we don't win. If I don't perform, the crowd isn't happy. My parents is happy. And I would always look for mom in the audience, no matter what level I was playing at. Um, because if she was happy, I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of ties into the people pleasing, is that when you learn this performance thing, you start to build up this propensity to people please because you're like, if I perform well, they'll like me. Then if they like me, then I'll be out of the radar of them, me not being liked or being thought of a certain way. So that's been throughout my entire life. Like our dad is my hero. Like I look up to him. I have his namesake. He's always won at every level. And if I could say one thing that dad didn't teach me to do well, which is lose. Like I don't know how to lose well. I'm a sore loser. I'm mad competitive.
You are.
So
You're.
yeah, even you see me even when I watch USC games. I remember like a few years ago, I was like I can feel my heart racing through my chest like I'm in the game.
I,
I
I,
remember you was looking at me like you
I probably hit you
you
with one of those like.
yeah, you hit me with the side eye like you all right? Like but I've always been mad competitive. So that competitiveness is when you're a people pleaser and you're competitive and you lose, it's like you lost in two different ways. Like you not only lost the game internally, but you also feel like you lost. For me, it felt like you losing love, you losing respect from everybody. So you like, dang, I gotta get it back. I gotta double back, I gotta spin a block. So I've always dealt with that. And then what comes with both of those is then the last one, as I said, like the third one I said, I mean, is you start to be hard on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you people please, and then you're loyal to a fault because you want to make sure that you rocking with the. And then when you can't live up to that, or you let them down, or you perceive to have let them down, you have this guilt, this heaviness, this shame, or like, man, I let the team down, I let people down. So I feel like that's always been something I've dealt with throughout my life, which is something you constantly working through. Like even as therapists, like there may be this misconception that like we're healed, like we're good now, we can help other people heal. It's like now we still actively healing, we still actively going through transition from trauma to healing, from trauma to healing, because you get older, you lose people, people die. Like our mom passed away in 2022. That's a whole new chapter I got to navigate now, that we all got to navigate. And because of when you people please, you naturally go to a place like, all right, something big like mom happened, mom passing, how can I take care of everybody else? And then you don't take care of yourself.
Yep.
Or you have something happen at work where somebody's going through something and you want to be likable and you want to be a part of the team. And then you realize like, man, this is not helping me because no matter what you do, they're still gonna have their own perceptions of you. So yeah, those three have been something I've always battled with throughout my life. And it definitely started, all of it started when I was a kid, trying to like win, whether it was dad or mom over or my teachers over. And sometimes, like I said, I wasn't a perfect kid at all, man. Like I would get in trouble for stuff. And that trouble outweighed anything that I could have done after that positive. Like
Mm.
I stayed with that. I was like, if I got in trouble in seventh grade, I was making up for that till I was 27. It
Wow.
was like, I can't let that go. Or if I got in trouble when I was 10, even though my parents might not be mad about it. They might have forgot about it. I didn't forget about it because the feeling you don't forget is how you made people feel by letting them down. The people around you might be like, "Bro, I don't remember that touchdown you didn't get or when you fumbled when you was in high school." But
Yep.
to me, that fumble now transitioned into um, I let down my spouse by not getting the bills paid on time, or
Yep.
that's a different kind of fumble, right? But it feels the same. The feeling of the fumble internally and physically still feels exactly like it did when you were seven. Now you just fumbling a bill or you fumbling date night. You're like, oh, I forgot, like we supposed to go on a date tonight and I was working hard. So that same internal feeling you feel is the same feeling you felt when you was a kid. It just transitioned. So
Yeah.
for me, it's been like that in different points in my life. I'm always keeping 100 with y'all. Like it's always been like that, and I'm still working through those things.
I have to ask this because you mentioned the people pleasing, the being hard on yourself, all of these things that if I'm willing to bet so many people watching this struggle with that to some degree. How are you like practically working through that? Like you everything that you said, I definitely understand, I relate to it, but Man, if I'm listening to that and I'm struggling with people pleasing at the same level that you mentioned, which definitely feels internally like pressure. Like it's carrying pressure when you say somebody's like, "Hey, I don't remember when you did so and so," but you carry it like it just happened 5 minutes ago. How are you navigating through those waters? Because those waters are very choppy.
Yeah, you can drown if you stay in it too long, man. You can definitely drown. Honestly, man, for me, I'm always asking what is my why behind why I'm doing something for somebody or why I'm trying to show up. Or if it feels like I'm people pleasing, I ask myself, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go out your way to drive 7,000 miles to help somebody move? Is it because you love them? Because you feel indebted to them? Is it because you think this is going to gain their love more? And after I go through my multiple choices, I just kind of X out each of them
Mm-hmm.
because I know the answer is all the above. I know that I want all of them. Um, and once I know that I want all of those things, then I have to ask myself, do I have the capacity? Do I have the emotional currency? Do I have the mental and physical currency to provide this right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't ask myself that, then I'm gonna be in debt to that feeling. I'm gonna be in debt to like sitting in the car for 7,000 miles and I'm just sitting there the whole time knowing I don't have it in me mentally, physically, emotionally to give to this person. But I'm just doing it because I want all the above. I want them to love me. I want them to know I'm trustworthy, I'm available, and that I can be dependable. And once I start cycling through that, I start to break down like real conversation. I'm always big on like confronting things directly with love and with gentleness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've always been big on that. So what I do now, like say for instance, I have something coming up where I have a ton of anxiety about. Like I don't want to go to it because I don't like funerals. I hate funerals. I hate them. It's not even about the person. Like, I get it. We got to show up. It's not about not wanting to be there for the person. I want to, but it's the aftermath of how I feel emotionally. I can't sleep well. I'm thinking about it now. It's real because I see them in the casket. I'm like, damn, they really died. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling with this, right? And I'm asking myself, can you muster up enough strength for an hour or two to do this, and then find something that takes your mind off of it afterwards. And I know that's not easy because you're this is a funeral, but I have to ask myself those questions. Like, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of what you're trying to gain from this? And are you doing this from a place of like guilt or because you feel like they're not going to love you? And once I go do that, I realize like, okay, this one, like a funeral, it's not about me, like at all. But it is about me checking into my feelings after that. So I hold myself accountable to saying, okay, you are going to do this. It's not people pleasing. But when you're done, check in with yourself afterwards. And how do you do that? I write. I sit there and say, like, what feelings came up during the funeral? Did you process your own mortality? Did you think about the moments and memories you had with this person? As dad like to say, the moments and memories. Like, I'm always doing self-reflection and check-in before I volunteer to do something because I know how I am. It's like somebody that is addicted to substances, to any type of substances, whether it's alcohol, drugs, crack, cocaine. You know, if you're in recovery, that you shouldn't be around those things because it's going to trigger you to relapse.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my relapse and going into people pleasing is by not by going into spaces and not checking in with myself and saying, "Oh, okay, like this person wants to do, let me just jump and do it," instead of saying, hold on. Did you check in with your internal self? Like, why are you doing this? And
Mm-hmm.
once I do that, I kind of take a step back. Like, I don't really think I need to do this because I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I think it's gonna build love more from this person, or I'm gonna feel better. Then I even ask myself, like, how old do you feel right now when wanting to do this? And I
Ooh.
know it's a weird question to ask yourself, but like, I really want y'all to think about that, especially for us as men. Like, what does that moment feel like? Because I guarantee you, it feels like an age you were when it happened. Like sometimes I remember this my therapist told me like, how old do you feel when you're angry? And I'm like, oh, well, what does that mean? And she was like, when you get angry and you spaz out and you yell and you it's an emotion underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? You didn't feel heard, you don't feel validated, you don't feel seen. And once I ask myself those questions, I'm like, oh, I didn't feel heard. I felt minimized. I felt like somebody tried to play with me, like they think I'm somebody to play with.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got to turn it up. So then when you realize that, you're like, oh, that felt just like it felt on the playground that day when they took my ball and they said I was a N-word or whatever. That feeling, like I said, those emotions, that physiological feeling that you have still carries into your adulthood. It didn't shift. It just now looks different. Now it's the funeral you got to go to. I don't like how it feels to go to a funeral. What's coming up in your body? What's happening? Oh, I feel emotional. I don't like how emotional feels. I
Mm-hmm.
want to feel tough right now. My dog just died. How do I feel tough in this moment? It's like, yeah, you can't in this moment. Sometimes the being able to be vulnerable is the toughest thing you can do.
Mm.
Being able to be vulnerable in this moment. I'm not saying in every situation because I get it. For there's dudes that's in the streets and there's dudes that's not in the streets and there's dudes that's in corporate office. And I get vulnerability in the streets can probably get you killed. I get vulnerability in a corporate setting can probably get you killed. But when it comes to being vulnerable with yourself, just you owning it to yourself, that's the bravest thing you can do as a man, as a black man. So I have to ask myself at this funeral, I feel vulnerable. Why do I feel vulnerable? Because I feel like I'm gonna cry when I'm here. I feel like I gotta let this person go. I feel like how do I honor this friendship after this person has passed? It's a lot of thoughts that come up, but a lot of times we don't sit through and shift through those emotions. So I think that's how I'm processing it for myself. That's how I'm teaching my clients to process it, especially my male clients. Is like it's okay to be vulnerable with yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you can find somebody safe that you trust to be vulnerable with, whether it's your partner, your homeboy, or whoever, then do that with them. Because sometimes even us processing our own vulnerability, we don't have all the answers, and it doesn't feel safe. So you got to find that safe person, of course, to bounce this idea off of.
Yeah, man. Wow. If anybody's still kind of on the fence about going to therapy, I believe what you just displayed is what it's like to have tools in your bag to come up to an event that's triggering or is giving you some anxiety, and you're checking things. What's the multiple choice? A, B, C, D, all the above. Those are absolutely tools in real life that you can see, write down, writing it, checking in with yourself. So I appreciate those. That is literally tools in action and things that you can get when going to therapy. Um, Man, so much to unpack there. I am gonna let you get up out of here, but I have to touch on two different things. Healing Feels Ghetto, and I definitely have to talk about the music because I feel like they're both intertwined. And I really love what you do with the music, man. It's really speaking about healing in the music. You're not really taking a step away from your career, in the mental health space. It's like you're intertwining it in the music space, which is really cool. And that's my favorite genre. If I'm gonna be listening to music anyway, it should be something that uplifts me, that helps me heal. Talk a little bit about the music, man. What has it been like in Healing Fields Ghetto? What is that, and what exactly does it mean? And then anything upcoming as far as music.
Yeah, man, music always, excuse me, always has been a big component of my life. I think um like I always mention, like when we was kids, grow up in the household, we played sports all the time, and our older brother did music. He rapped. He played sports too, but he rapped. He was the only person really doing music.
Mm-hmm.
And dad used to DJ back in the day.
Who DJ?
Um, DJ Juice, man, he used to DJ back in the day. But also, just in our household, we played so many genres of music, so many different styles of music. Whether it was Kirk Franklin and the Family, Shirley Caesar, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Tupac,
Anita Baker.
Scarface, Anita Baker, Yolanda Adams. Like we played so many different styles of music that it kind of like communicated our emotions for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, but when you was going to college, we was heavy on that Thank Me Later
Yeah.
album. We was in the den and we was working out and listening to it, and it's like music can sometimes narrate your life and your feelings in different ways. And I feel like for me, when we listen to it, for me, when I listen to it and when I write music, um, it's like my best form to express like the parts of myself that I'm not able to do all the time in real time. So music allows me to like bring out this part of myself that's kind of like dormant. Like I need to wake it up and like put it out there, so to speak, because
Mm-hmm.
we have all these different things that we want to do, but I think sometimes the fear of it is like trying to just do it. And for me, that's been my biggest thing. Like I've been wanting to do music for some years now, and I'm finally getting to a place where I'm realizing like do it from a place for you, not for nobody else, not for likes, not for comments, not for retweets or reposts. Like, do it for you. Like, what does it mean to you? So Terrence was the first person. Tick was the first person that put me on to it. He was rapping all the time, and you remember he'd sit you in a car and he'd go do a verse, a song, and he gonna hit you in the neck. Like, did you hear? Did you hear what he just said? Like, he gonna make you laugh, but also play the song, and he doesn't even realize that um how much that impacted my emotions because I'm listening into these bars, but then I have a smile, I have laughter because he's going to make you laugh. So
Mm-hmm.
you have these two emotions combined in one thing. So when I started writing and started making music, rapping really, um, it felt good. It felt like, dang, this feels natural. This feels comfortable. So this is something I'm going to pursue much more on top of me being a therapist. I had a wise mentor that told me, because I was telling her about both ideas. She was like, well, do both, be a rapper and be a therapist. Like, why not? So that's what I'm on right now, which goes into the Healing Fields ghetto. And really, when you think about the term ghetto, like it's origin of it to where it is now is totally different. Like it came from a place where Jews were placed in this environment where they were being persecuted. They didn't have enough resources and things that they need, and they were being killed and slaughtered. And that's a sad history. And then you go into the era of like black people moving into having to be denied credit lines and being in red line areas where they were sectioned together as black folks and as us as a people, and those things turn into the ghetto, so to speak, because we didn't have resources and things weren't accessible to us because we were forced into these environments due to discrimination or systemic injustices and discrimination. So we now use this term very differently. Like when we say, man, that feels ghetto, like, oh, that's ghetto. Like it's so universal, is used differently in different, however you look at it. And for me, when I think of healing feels ghetto, it's like, man, it sucks to have to heal. If it does suck sometimes because you got to go back to this place where I didn't have the resources that the thing wasn't readily available to me, and it feels ghetto. Like it feels like, dang, this is trash, man. I ain't trying to go through this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm flipping it on his head and using it as a positive. It's like, yeah, it does feel ghetto, but now you coming out of this space and you're healed and you're having to go back to this place that you don't want to be at, but you're going back to get something from it. You're not going back to just leave it as it was. And that's either you going back to the 5-year-old version of you and saying, I got you. I know why you felt like that. I know why the emotions happened like that. I know why your mom and dad was like this. It wasn't your fault. Come
Yeah.
on, I got you. So it is. It feels ghetto having to go back there. So that's what I'm on. I'm looking forward to like putting out music soon. The first project I will be putting out is called Don't Be So Tough. It probably won't be like an album or nothing, but that's the title of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then that'll go into the Healing Fields Ghetto series that I'll do. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm excited about it. And I'm glad we got to sit down and talk about health and mental health and all of these things, man. To see what you're doing, this is really dope. It's a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all hear the intro, that's me rapping on the intro. I got to shout myself out.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking forward to it, and I hope I can come back when I do put the music out, and maybe we could do a video breakdown or a lyric breakdown or something when that time comes.
Oh man, wheels already spinning. You already know when you drop the album. Don't be so tough. Which album is already kind of can get where you're going. I haven't heard one song, but I'm super excited. But when you do drop it, man, definitely come back on Initially Awkward. We could do all of that, man. Breakdown because I know you talking. I know you helping people heal through song form. So,
Yeah, man.
Dwayne Radden Jr., Dwaine, Peanut, Edward the Middle, be on the lookout for what he's dropping. And we gonna keep it rolling. It's Initially Awkward. It's your boy Derek Devine. Be easy.
Sitting in dark, who would've known that the deepest fear is stuck in the